Welcome to the Misfit One Lifestyles with Elizabeth Colin. She will awaken and connect with your Misfit One. Are you tired of the ups and downs in your life? Are you ready to live a healthy lifestyle once and for all? We are talking about all aspects of your life. Being fit is not just physical, it's also your mind and soul. Learn how to take steps in your life to move towards your goals. Elizabeth's goal is for everyone listening to the sound of her voice to get fit. Let's get focused, let's get intentional, and let's transform. Now here's your host, Elizabeth Colin.
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Misfit One Lifestyles with your host, Elizabeth Colin, also known as Misfit One. Guys, listen, you know I love the kids. You know Misfit One love the cheering. The cheering is important for us, and our guest today is none other than David Steinman, and I am so excited to introduce you to everybody, just in case, they don't know who you are. Give them a little background of what you do, Mr. David. How you feeling?
Hi, Elizabeth. How are you today?
I am wonderful. Thank you so much for being on and giving us these nuggets.
I appreciate it. Thank you for letting me be on your show today. So, I am what you would call a citizen enforcer. And that means I bust big corporations for exposing our kids to chemical toxins that are hidden in their products and they don't reveal. For example, we tested Johnson's baby products, and we found their advertising campaign said that they contain no phthalates, which are a plastic chemical used in cosmetics that can cause real damage to our baby's brains during pregnancy, right? And after pregnancy, during the fast growth spurt period, right after pregnancy. So if Johnson says we don't have any phthalates, our testing shows they do. And my group, the Healthy Living Foundation, sued them in court in Washington, D.C., and we're litigating it because they're not telling the truth. And we want people to know these are dangerous chemicals, and they are in these products. So we hold companies accountable. And I also go around the country and talk to a lot of victims of chemical poisoning. People like who might have had drinking water in their preschool that was filled with toxic chemicals, and they didn't know it, and their kids drank it. And I talked to one mom, and she was can you imagine the guilt? I mean, I'm a parent of 3, and our greatest job as parents is to protect our kids, right? And she had so much guilt because she didn't know to check the drinking water at her children's preschool before they went there. This was in New Hampshire, but it's happening all over the country. So I wrote a book called Raising Healthy Kids, Protecting Your Children from Hidden Chemical Toxins, because it's so important, and we're not talking about it and we're not learning about it.
Well, we're going to talk about it today for sure. So one of the things I want to know is, like, I know you test a lot of products, like you said before, you found the talum and all these things, but what are some surprising or concerning discoveries that you have made regarding the presence of toxins in common household items?
So I mentioned Johnson's baby shampoo. Here's another classic. Have you ever heard of Chex snack mixes?
I have some in my...
Yeah, I'm sorry, dear. We're going to have to throw them out.
Yeah, I don't mind. Tell me what's going on.
Yeah, so with Chex snack mixes, which, come in these big bags for Super Bowl Sunday, or you get them at bars, or you give them to your kids every day for snacks, or the schools hand them out. They had a really high amount, in our opinion, of an industrial chemical called acrylamide. And this chemical causes endometrial and uterine cancer in our daughters. And the risk begins when our kids are over snacking on foods contaminated with acrylamide. It appears in their foods because they are using outdated processing methods and sometimes the wrong ingredients, and they form, when they're heated, a chemical, and it's called acrylamide, and it causes cancer. So we found very high amounts in Chex snack foods. And we found very high amounts in another product called Justin's Classic Almond Butter, which everyone is buying at Whole Foods. It's a really popular product. and it says it's natural and all this, but they aren't safe for our kids. So we sued both of those companies. We brought legal action against them. And the thing is, though, Elizabeth, you can find safe foods. As a cop, kind of a cop that's doing this enforcement beat, I see a lot of the bad actors, but there are a lot of good ones too. And
Right.
so we can focus on the negative, or we can say this is a manageable problem, protecting our kids from chemical toxins, be smart shoppers, and make choices that really enhance our life too.
And I want to talk about that as well. So let's talk about some of the things, because your book, Raising Healthy Kids, I wonder, can you tell us a little bit about that? Because would it be in a way for kids to understand, or is it aimed at the parents?
Great question. We are teaching our kids all of the time.
Yes,
And
we
it is a book that helps you to teach your kids and shows you how to do it by example.
got
That's
you.
my last chapter. In fact, it's called Deep Caring. And I interview and tell stories about mother-daughter activists, how the daughters grew up, not falling far from the apple tree, as they say. The apple falls very close.
Right.
And the apples, though, end up teaching the tree a little bit too. And we're always going to learn from our kids. In fact, our kids are teaching us all the time. I did another chapter in Raising Healthy Kids about gender identity. And
Well,
that's because, we're injecting all of these plastic chemicals into our environment, and they act like the female hormone estrogen on our kids. They're called xenoestrogens, and those phthalates that I mentioned in the Johnson's product and the acrylamide
yes.
in the Czech snack mixes, these also imitate the female hormone estrogen, or they block the actions of the male hormone testosterone. So we're injecting all of these plasticizing chemicals into our food, our water, and our air. And then we're asking why there's so much gender fluidity in society today, and why it seems like there's so many kids who might be trans or transitioning, or just not going to go to the polarities of strict male, strict female, but somewhere on the spectrum, right? And a lot of parents are going, what's going on here? Because they grew up in a time before all of this chemical exposure. You got to remember, this is really a product of the last 30 or 40 years, and it's only it could be a lot worse, but it has gotten worse. And we have to protect our kids. So our kids are being exposed to these chemicals, and they're having a definite influence on all of them, because the two biggest sex organs in the human body are the human brain and the genitalia. They both need the sex hormones to develop. If the genitalia don't get the right dose of the male hormone testosterone, you can end up with slightly feminized genitalia on your children, on your male son, on your males. Consequently, if the brain, which develops later in the pregnancy, doesn't get the shot of testosterone it needs to develop in the male direction, and it gets more female plasticizers, it won't develop as male as it could have under less intrusive conditions. These
Wow.
things are happening to our kids. So our kids are teaching us, our parents, hey, don't make me this or that anymore. You're the ones who are putting all these chemicals into our environment and just tipping the scales enough to create more gender variation, gender identity variation. So our kids are teaching society a lot about what's happening to them by the way they express themselves and how they identify.
That's really, I mean, I never even heard of that. So that's like, wow, wow. And I noticed that there's difference in the food that we eat and things that we eat. Because I'm an old lady now, I'm 50, I was 52. I couldn't even remember. But what it is that when we were growing up, I was raised on a farm and I ate everything that we grew. So we didn't eat the same way that these kids eat. And my body just couldn't take a lot of stuff. So like I stopped eating meat. I don't eat a lot of things because my stomach just can't do it, right? So it's crazy that we think about our food in that manner, but we don't think about the products that we actually put clean our clothes with, or makeup that we put on our skin. There's also things that are toxic in all those things. And one of the things you talked about too, I was doing my research or stalking, whatever you want to call it, that you had on there about the aromas that people use in their house. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh
What is
yeah, diffusers
the
and air
diffuser?
fresheners,
Yep.
and you can also include your own fragrances, your
Perfumes
oh
and yeah.
yes, yes. All of these again, this is I guess we're kind of doing a little bit of a lesson on phthalates today, which is good because phthalates are prevalent. And if I can give your listeners just one really good take-home lesson, it is to be very careful about your cosmetics if you want to have a family or are pregnant, because fragrance in cosmetics or the fragrance used in the diffusers is often laden with phthalates. It helps to fix the fragrance into the product so it doesn't escape. Phthalates kind of are a little bit heavy. They attach to the molecules of the fragrance and they kind of weigh it down like little magnets on the bottom of a shower curtain, kind of. They make it stick into the product.
Right.
So when I'll just give you an example with more cosmetics. My kids, one of my sons brought home English leather cologne. And aside from the fact that I think I used it when I was 13 and god awful, I don't even want to think about what dear, don't make me think about when David was 13, okay? That is an awful thought. That's a terrible thought. Let's
No.
not go back there. But my kids, when they were maturing into teens, my son brought home English leather, and I tested it for phthalates, and it was loaded with phthalates. So I got him a product that used essential oils and won't have phthalates in it. And I tell you how to do this in the book, by the way. But the point is, if you continue to use products with lots of phthalates in them, you hurt your own sperm. And as healthy as he is, you don't see these kinds of damaging effects on your sperm, but they show up. And what it does is, in our population in America, we're not really reproducing very well right now. And if people are looking for reasons why, again, I'll come back to the biological reason that we have really inundated our environment with a lot of xenoestrogens that are altering the way we interact with our sex hormones, and it is changing all of society. So if you want your kids to be able to reproduce, you got to do a cosmetic intervention. So mom and dad, you can actually go buy your kids safe cosmetics. These will contain organic ingredients. And I give you a lot of good brands, some of which we've tested, others of which we've studied and believe that they will be safe. And I give you the names.
Yeah.
Because, your kids, you were asking about, do kids learn? And between the ages of 13 and 19, they don't learn. They don't learn. Their little teen brains are like
They
funny
know
little
everything.
things
Yeah.
with lots of blocks. So as a parent, you just keep teaching them, realizing maybe when they're 20, 21, 22, they'll finally realize, oh, the things I was being taught as a teen actually are important to me,
Which it
right?
does happen. Which it
Yeah.
does happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you still want to do the cosmetic interventions when they're teens. Hear me now, understand me later, right? You got to change their habits and later it will pay off. So I
Right.
got my kids safer fragrances to use because they do want to use, that stuff.
So can you talk
Yeah.
to us and give us some tips on or easy practical ways that we can do the research on products that was not as harmful for us, how we can maximize the least amount of harmfulness that we could from any, product.
I think it's really important for people to be good label readers and to be educated consumers. So for product categories like cosmetics, household cleaning products, and foods, I share how to read a label and see marker ingredients that will tell you got to toss this product out.
Okay,
For
can you
example,
share with us? Yeah, share.
if you're buying a laundry detergent
Okay.
and it says it contains ethoxylated alcohol or alcohol ethoxylate, just look for ETH on the label. That means it will probably be contaminated with a carcinogen called 1,4-dioxane that will become airborne in your home, contaminate your laundry, and I think worst of all, it contaminates our drinking water supplies. So read the label, look for any compounds with ETH in it, and you can go a long ways towards protecting your own health, your drinking water for your local community, and your environment. I'll give you another way to look out for chemical toxins. When you're shopping, for example, for let's say foods,
Okay, food.
and you see organic and you see conventional. Most people think the organic is going to be more expensive, and so oftentimes they don't even consider buying organic. But in fact, what I've done is I've done a lot of price comparison shopping, and you can buy all the organic staples like lettuce, celery, tomatoes, bread, carrots, corn, apples, oranges, now for about the same price as conventionally grown. And when you do that, you can cut down your children's chemical exposure by a great deal. Most kids, when they eat conventionally grown foods, have nerve toxins in their urine called organophosphates. These are
Mm.
pesticides sprayed on grains and fruits and vegetables. But when you buy organics, the levels of these organophosphates go down to non-detectable in their urine. So why is that important? Well, mom and dad, you want a healthy kid, you want a well-behaved kid. And if you add these little nerve toxins called the organophosphates to their diet, these result in increasing risk for attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. They interfere with learning. They cause language difficulties. And these are particularly important during pregnancy, but also while you're raising your children. So the antidote is really to buy organic foods. We looked at testing for organic foods. They're not perfect, but they're so much better than conventionally grown in terms of reducing your chemical exposure.
Right.
So read labels and don't fall for the myth that organic is too expensive. It isn't. It's really affordable these days.
Right. And you know what? When you talk about raising healthy kids, first of all, can you tell us where we can get the book?
Great. Thank you for asking. It's available at Amazon.com. You can put in Raising Healthy Kids, David Steinman, in Google or Amazon, Barnes and Noble, and all the other independent booksellers. It's pretty widely available, and you can get advanced copies now, depending on when we air. It'll be out in hardcover in May, but you can go to any website and order an advanced copy, any bookseller.
Right. I love this because it is important to raising your healthy kids. And I got to be honest, and my program is all about being authentic and telling the truth. I never really paid attention to the toxin and things. I am very aware and diligent when it comes to my food, what I put in my body. But I was not as diligent as the ingredients that I put on my skin, which is just as important to what you're putting in your mouth, because eventually it will sink into your skin and get into your bloodstreams and things of that nature as well. So let's talk about, I want to talk about the toxins that is in makeup and like Clario, the hair dyes and things like that.
Okay. So let's talk about makeup and hair dye.
So what do we look for when we are reading the label that would be like a no-go for us? Like, oh, don't get this one because, right?
Yeah. When you're buying makeup, some of the really harmful ingredients are going to be talc. Please avoid makeup with talc. Talc is not good for your lungs. And of course, you want to avoid any powders with talc that you might use in your um, as well for your baby. Triethanolamine is a chemical. You'll see it as triethanolamine or TEA. Avoid any makeup product with TEA on it. If you get past makeup, let's say we go to hair products like you were talking about. There's a family of compounds called quaterniums. In the beauty industry, they call them quats, Quats. And all you have to know is that when you see things on your label like trimonium chloride or benzyl hexylconium chloride or sterylconium chloride, all those IUM compounds like the ETHs, you want to avoid them. And why is that? Well, the quats are also the main ingredient used in Lysol disinfectant spray. They kill everything. But the interesting thing about quats, especially in hair products, for folks like me and others who have curly hair, or who are buying ethnic care products, is quats are really good for keeping your curls. They're water resistant. So manufacturers who are producing products for the ethnic hair care market often overload them with the quaternium compounds. The problem is that, as I said, the quats are biocides. They kill everything. They're disinfectants. They also cause infertility. Now, if you're a hairdresser or you're just a fashionista and you're using a lot of hair conditioning products, you're going to be overexposed to quats, not just through your hair products, but they're also the #1 ingredient in hand wipes. You know, during the pandemic, all those hand wipes that we were using, those were quat compounds that were active in them. So you've got them in the disinfectants, you've got them in the hair wipes, and then the ethnic hair care market has men and women using them on their scalps. Now,
Right.
I was interviewing a lot of hairdressers for my book, Raising Healthy Kids, who told me during the pandemic, they were basically out of business because no one could come into the salons.
Right.
But during that time, hairdressers enjoyed a baby boom. The reason is, and they told me this, they were no longer being exposed to the quat compounds.
It wasn't because they was home.
Well, I think they were, you know what? Yeah. Let's there are many factors. Exactly, my friend. Exactly.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
but I think no, because I think they were really trying. These were hairdressers, women of childbearing age, who really wanted to have kids, and they really were trying. And it
Right.
was, and it was like, oh my, I can't get pregnant, or I'm having too many miscarriages, things like that. Um, and so, and I talked to another hairdresser, and you can talk to a lot of users of cosmetic products when they cut out the quat compounds, because these really aren't a lot of hair care products. Their fertility risks go down, and their opportunity to have a family, a healthy family, goes up. So you definitely want to look out for those quat compounds. And as I said, if you see words like quaternium or anything with IUM in them, those are the ones you want to avoid. Again, you can go online to the Safe Cosmetics campaign, and there's a whole database now of ethnic hair care products that are safe. They did a great job. So you will find ones with certified organic ingredients, for example, that are very safe to use.
So what is that website again for the
The
resources?
Safe Cosmetics campaign.
Good.
Yeah, just Google Safe Cosmetics campaign, and they'll have the African American hair care database.
Well, what's really important is I love that you said about child rearing and all those, but listen, what about the women who are past that age? What is the, side effects of
Yeah,
those? Yeah.
yeah, these are very important compounds to avoid because if it's got quats in them, it's likely to have other harmful ingredients. And what we want to do as we get older is minimize the toxic exposure to avoid cancer and kidney disease and liver disease. So you have to continue a regimen of avoiding chemical toxins all through your life because your risk for cancer will continue to increase. One of the most important things we can do as we get older, for example, is to filter our drinking water because our risk for bladder and colorectal cancer goes up. And part of that risk is because those tissues come into contact with harmful chemicals in our drinking water. and they initiate cancer. So again, as you get older, you want to be just as careful. You're just as vulnerable in a different way than your kids, but you are vulnerable too.
This is so fascinating to me. I really appreciate this because, again, like I said, I'm very aware and cautious of what I put inside my mouth, but not necessarily what I put on my skin until I did my own skincare line that I really did a lot of studying and all that. And my skincare line is clean. It is so important for me to make sure that the toxin that, is not in my product. I don't want anybody to get sick off of, the things that I put out there. So what's great about Raising Healthy Kids, your book, is that it can teach us as parents, and they learn from us. They learn from our example on how to read a label, and you gave us great examples of that, how to read a label, what to look for, and say, okay, no, we don't want that. And you also gave us good resources that we can go and look and see online what kind of products that are safe to use. So I appreciate this. This is very, very informative. Thank you so much, Mr. David. Now, let me ask you this before we wrap it up. How are you taking care of yourself? What does your self-care look like? Because you're out there taking care of all the kids in the world. You protecting the world. How do you take care of you?
Thank you for asking that question. Because I write and I do a lot of work sitting down, I really make sure to get a lot of exercise. I watch out for all the chemical toxins, no doubt. But we live in the physical world, and we really need to be able to take, and it's not only doing, like, I think as you get older, you should lift weights, for example, to build your bone mass.
Yes.
But I also find things that when I was growing up, you were taught, well, this is kind of wavy stuff. It's kind of weird stuff, but you should be doing yoga, stretching, meditation. You should have someone to love who loves you. You need to get love. Need to be out of bad relationships. And
that's toxin right there. A toxic relationship. Yeah. Whoa.
You know what? And that means your partner will be into the anti-toxic movement too, because it's really important. Yes. So for me, it's just been doing a lot of making sure that I take care of my physical body. We live a lot in our heads, right? In our brains, as we do if we're writing or doing our business work, we got to get out of that and get back to our bodies and feel them.
I love it. That's perfect. That is perfect. Thank you again for taking time out and speaking to us, because it's important. It's important to know that we have the ability to make this world a safer place. And it's about being informed and aware and have the knowledge to make difference in our products that we choose. And we have the money, we have the buy-in power to make them change these things as well. So
we are the change.
We are the change.
We are the change.
Oh, I love it. We are no, don't get me started there. I know. Thank you again. And you know what? You are really, really all about what my whole platform is about. Living fit. Living focused plus intentional equals transformation. And you are focused on really making this planet a better place for us. And you are moving with intentions, and you are totally transforming this world. So thank you again. We appreciate you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. It's been great.
Thank you. All right, guys, it's your girl, Elizabeth Colin. And you know what I want you to do this week? Live fit. I hope you enjoyed this episode of Misfit One Lifestyles. Listen, when you are fed up and sick and tired of living this stifled, overwhelmed, and overstressed life, and you're ready to live the fullest, richest, and healthiest life by gaining more confidence, more energy, and more clarity, living in your best self, you know what to do, right? Go ahead, go to my website, misfit1.com. Sign up for our online courses, Creating Healthy Habits, so that you too can live fit, focus, move with intention, and transform your life.